In the Round podcast. You got Matt and Boudreaux hanging out, and today we have a very special guest joining us. It is Mr. Benji Cowart. Benji, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing well. It's 2020, so doing about as good as we all can be doing. You know the drill. You get it, man. You get it.
Oh,
What have you been up to? How's your 2020 been here in the great city of Nashville?
Man, it's been good. Like the whole rhythm, like fortunately being a writer, I've actually done a lot of writing through all this because one of the cool things, it's not cool for the artist, but it's like because right now they're not doing a lot of touring, they just have time to be creating content. So some of that's been good of just having access to a lot of artists here in town. And then beyond that, like just in normal life, just trying to, you do this whole in school, like Zoom school thing, which my kids, like we're about to have like a full blown prison riot in my house. They're back at school now, but they're kind of talking that they may go back to doing stuff from home. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's got to be tough as a parent, and I mean, if as I know you have the professor background as well and do the teaching stuff. I mean, it's an interesting time to be doing anything that involves like personal interaction and whatnot. I mean, me and Tyler see it with not being able to be on the road a whole lot this year, and just got to try to make the most of a situation, you know?
I know. I mean, it's like, and it is. It's like the good thing is we'll all be able to tell our grandkids we went through a pandemic, and we're mostly normal, but not most, with a few twitches, but mostly normal on the other side of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. So you're actually the first, is it considered worship music, Christian music? I mean, like, you're the first, like, non-country, non-pop guy that we have had on here, which is really cool, because it's a world I know nothing really about. I've learned a whole lot about it being down here in Tennessee, and learned a whole lot about just how big it is. And people think of Nashville as the country music hub, but it is just as much the worship, contemporary Christian rock hub as well, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny because it's actually always healthy. Like I was telling you earlier, I lived in Buffalo for 7 years. So I think it's really healthy to know where your place in the pie is. It's almost, because, it's like you go, yeah, I mean, just be honest. Christian artists in places like New York and other places like, no one have any idea who they are. And so you kind of go like, you might be a real big deal in this industry, but you're a big deal in a like tiny, tiny sliver.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a very healthy kind of thing of going like, let's be honest. Like, if you're going into this to be a big deal, then go pick another genre.
Yeah.
But if you want to write music that's something you really believe in and something you really believe that might change a situation for somebody, and with radio or with worship music, your hope is that I can be a part of something that's bigger than me. And, because fortunately we're blessed to be able to make a living, but, you have a hit song in Christian music. It's not the same money as having a hit song in country music. And so, it's like, but at the same time, it's a blessing to get to do what you love and actually be able to pay the bills doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, man. And something that I've kind of noticed, and we'll get into your backstory here in a minute, but something that popped in my head because we were jamming a lot of it. Me and Tyler here were running around doing errands as we usually do on our podcast days. We pop out for lunch and then realize all the other things we need to do while we're out of the house here in 2020. There seems to be like maybe more on like the countryside, like because we were listening to a lot of stuff that you've had cut and things like that.
Well, your Big Daddy Weave cuts.
A lot of the Big Daddy Weave cuts. With Big Daddy Weave, that stuff's pretty cool. I was jamming to it earlier and stuff. Again, not something I didn't grow up with, but it seems like a lot of what was coming out of the worship world in the mid 2000s, even like post 2010, that kind of like melody, that kind of production style, and like just the feel of the song is starting to cross over into country. And maybe it has for a while, but like I was hearing a lot of those hooks and stuff, and I'm like, that sounds like a lot of what's on country radio now. So for you as somebody who's more in that Christian world, what do you feel kind of the same way, or do you feel like there's those crossovers and stuff?
Well, it's funny you say that because like when I lived in Buffalo, everybody thought I was like, because I would just lead worship and they're like, you sound like a country Chris Tomlin. And like, I grew up in Nashville, so I'm going like, I don't think I sound country at all. But it's like you can have your own reality in your head all you want to, but when everybody around you says, oh, you sound like you're singing country. So it's made me really aware of like, I think some of it is the rootiness of what a lot of Christian music does, and absolutely like I was born and raised in the South, and I was one of those kids actually until I hated country music, and I lived in Hendersonville up until about 90s country. And then I absolutely fell in love. So when you get like Vince Gill and you get all these different, and even Garth Brooks, and everybody's like, Garth Brooks is a sellout. But like when I go back and listen to his hits album, I'm like, that's some of the best songs I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those people like, you get like Diamond Rio, and just when I go back, I'm just like, if you don't believe that 90s country is the best country, we're not friends. And I'm a little biased. I'm a little old school, but it's like, but that's what I fell in love with. And some of it was, and I mean, it's funny because it's a lot like Christian, where it was just pop enough to be accessible to a lot of people. Because like where I checked out was some of the old country. I kind of had to go back and grow to love basically Waylon and Willie and some of those guys. And now I really appreciate him because I'm kind of like, when Merle Haggard was playing in a bar, there's a chance that he was the baddest dude in the bar.
Yeah.
And you just don't have that much anymore. So so it's like even with country artists, a lot of times I'm like, I don't know if I believe that guy, because now Stapleton, I believe anything that comes out of his mouth.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Sometimes, and honestly, it's that way. I feel like that bleeds over to Christian. I mean, there's some people where I hear them, and you're kind of like, you really like. For a great example, Big Daddy Weave, like Mike Weaver, that dude, his love for Jesus just kind of bleeds out of him. It's real. It's who he is. It's the real deal. But I think when you hear people, I think one of the things that's going to come through, and I think maybe that's one of the similarities in the two genres of music, is authenticity. Like you know when somebody's telling their story, and you know when they're not. You know when they're just writing a really slick song or singing a really slick song, and you're like, well, yeah, this is really cool, but I'm not sure if I believe that they've experienced any of that.
Yeah.
And I
absolutely.
Obviously, like we have a little bit of history being in a classroom together, and I remember you at times preaching that to us in a classroom. It was like, tell your story, don't kind of tell anything that you don't know. And I feel like, if you're trying to do that in both genres, like you said, like it shows real quick.
Yeah. People sniff you out quick.
Oh, absolutely. So now backing up, do you claim the title of being a unicorn?
What is the unicorn?
You're born.
That has so many. Oh yeah, actually, yes.
Yes. So you're born and raised here in Nashville. You're not like myself or Tyler or any of the hundreds, or at this point probably thousands of people that have moved here to Nashville. So you were born and raised here.
I was born in Baptist, but when it was Baptist, it's St. Thomas now, Baptist Hospital in downtown Nashville.
Yeah.
Lived in Hendersonville my entire life, went to Belmont College, and it wasn't until a year after my wife and I were married that we went into ministry. And then we lived for 15 years. We lived all over the country and lived away. But yeah, I am as local as you can get as far as being raised here.
Yeah. So what's real quick sidebar where we always like to get into food with me and Tyler. Hot chicken go-to, where is it?
You know what? That's a good question, because I came in, we moved back. Let's see, when I came and started taking to Trevecca was probably 2013.
Yeah, 2013.
And so we moved back, and I was asking the same questions you were. I kind of came back a tourist, because we got ripped off. Like when we left Nashville, I'm telling you, you didn't go downtown. Broadway, you didn't go down there. East Nashville, you didn't, if you lived over there, that was the hood.
Yeah.
And so it was so moving back here. I'm like, I can't believe how much they got done downtown, and the food scene that's here now. It was never here when I was in college. I feel so ripped off. I go back to Belmont, and I'm like, we had a high school version of what Belmont is now.
Yeah, I remember whenever I came and visited Trevecca at first, I was looking for places to eat. And I remember review after review after review of Nashville was it's not a food city. It doesn't have good food. And then that was early 2013, and by the time I moved here late 2013, it had completely
Dude, you hit it
changed. Right. Yeah.
You hit it right. And I still, honestly, my favorite place still to go is Satco.
Okay.
Yeah. Satco's a good.
I highly recommend the combination of because after living in Buffalo, they're the only place in town that has what I think are credible buffalo wings.
Okay.
Because I'm now a wing snob, man. I don't play around with that.
When you're living in Buffalo, New York, you learn a couple things. You learn that the Bills have a hard time winning. Knock on wood, this year might be their year.
This might be.
You learn that a snow shovel and a snow plow and snowmobile, all that stuff is very useful. You all get snow like no other, and you learn what great chicken wings are. Not just good chicken wings, but like the best of the best
like
in Buffalo.
everything you would hope a chicken wing could be, you will find in Buffalo.
That and more.
Like
So
it will fulfill your wildest chicken wing dreams.
yeah. So what was that experience for you being a native Southerner and going? I mean, you said you bounced all around and in ministry with what you and your wife did. You experienced a lot. What was going to a place like Buffalo and some other places like for you? Did you ever feel like a culture shock or anything like that?
What was the first place you went after?
So we left Nashville, and first we went to Fort Worth, Texas, to go to seminary. And that was, I mean, that's almost very similar cultures, very similar. It was cool to be down there. Obviously, you have a huge Hispanic population, so it was kind of cool to just be immersed in that and kind of just see like just the coexistence there. And so then we moved from Fort Worth, we moved to Florida. So Florida is a whole different animal because Florida on the coast is like lower New York, which we were on the coast. But if you go into we're down about 30, we're in Northport, which is about 30, 45 minutes south of Sarasota on the West Coast.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, man, if you go into like Central Florida, it's like Deliverance, redneck.
Like, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's like a whole different level of country.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, so we experienced a little bit of that northern thing. But you know, once people move to Florida, like your Northerners are all chill. They're in retirement mode.
Oh,
so they're just chilled out. Like you kind of drive at your own risk because of all the people that have moved down there and probably shouldn't be driving. And then so from Florida, like we moved. It almost sounds like we were running from the law, but I promise we're not. We moved from Florida to we went out to Las Vegas and lived for a year and a half at a church plant, which that was the cool thing about Vegas is the people that live in Vegas are really normal. It's all the people that go there that act like absolute idiots. And so, you know, so we really we got to be, we were only there for a year and a half. We took a year out of ministry, moved from there, went to Atlanta, Georgia for a year. And we were basically just getting ourselves sane again. Just basically took a year out of ministry, but then we moved to Buffalo for 7 years. So Buffalo is still like, I always laugh because growing up, like, man, I always felt a little awkward around the good old boy culture. Whereas when I lived in Buffalo, I'm like, I think I'm like a New Yorker at heart because we'd have people in my church. First time I'd meet them, they'd walk up and insult me to my face and then be like, "You want to go to dinner?" And I'm like, this is so weird. And then they would be like, they would be your friends for life.
Oh yeah.
And so when people just told you like it was, and I'm like, I think this is who I am because I don't like, that's kind of the way I'm wired. I don't have a lot of tact. I just sort of shoot pretty straight most of the time. And I was like, these people, like, and even the one, you know, I had one, I mean, like, there were a couple people in my church that just straight up right away, like, made it very clear they didn't like me.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like, cool. I know where I stand. Like, you don't like me. I don't necessarily like you either. It's all good. Like, we'll just stay away from each other.
So when you're going around and stuff, so you're going and you're working at like a local church. So you're bouncing from spot to spot. What's that adjustment period like? Because I mean, like when we go out on tour, we're in one city and then we're in the next city and then we're back in Nashville. For y'all are spending years at a time with a congregation, growing with the people of this church, of this parish. What's that experience like?
That's because where I've landed. It's a great question because where I've landed for anybody who's moved around, I'm just like, look, give yourself at least 2 years before it even remotely feels like home. And even then, that's where it just begins. Like when you say, you know, you move here and it takes you, you know, a year and a half, you're like, man, I'm really just not meeting people. I'm like, you just hadn't been here long enough. Like, it's going to take at least 2 years before any place just be like, all right, this is where I'm at. I know I'm just starting to feel like my place now. Some places are faster. Like so after Buffalo, we moved down to Nashville. We were here for 4 years, and that was Tyler's where I was teaching and met Tyler. I was a full-time songwriter and teaching in college, and then we took 2 more years on staff at a church down in New Orleans, and we just moved back probably a year ago. And so, like, my biggest regret in all that is like we've moved our kids around a lot, and so we're, you know, it's the unsettling and resettling, and they've done really well with it. But I'm like, man, I grew up in Hendersonville. I literally from kindergarten all the way through high school was with the same group of people. And so I'm like, I wish my kids could have had that. And it's, it's just not the way our story played out. But yeah, you get to a place you're like, all right, I'm done making new friends. I will not make another new set of friends again. I'm done moving. I will never move my house again. So you get to a place where, man, you're just weary of it. You kind of and you start really valuing those friendships that have been around a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys know what it's like when you go home. I mean, do you guys both kind of stay in the same place for most of your childhood?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, most of it.
So, it's when you get around people who've known you since you were a little punk kid.
Yeah.
And there's just something about that where you're like, there's nothing like this is good. Like when I went to my 10-year reunion, it was just so good to be around people who didn't know me as a pastor. They didn't call me Pastor Benji. And I was like, man, these guys all knew me when I was just an insecure middle schooler with a perm.
The perm days, okay.
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
Like there was a season in my life where I don't know if there was a lack of male intervention or something. Or my dad just didn't my dad. I don't know if he should have stepped in and said no, you're gonna get the crap beat out of you. Don't get a perm.
Oh man. So talking about kids real quick, you Tyler had shown this to me. You did a pretty cool little take on the song "Rude" that came out. I believe it was a few years back. That was pretty funny. And I don't have a kid yet. Tyler doesn't have a kid yet either. But I would say, if as a father, I would want the same kind of things as as those lyrics that you rewrote.
Yeah, it's funny because that joke. I mean, totally. That song, that whole thing was tongue in cheek and a joke. But it's like when I first heard that song, because I mean, I started listening to it because it was one of my buddies like, you got to hear the guitar solo because the guitar tone on that is it's from the heavens.
Yeah.
But when I heard, I'm gonna marry her anyway, I was like, oh no. Like, that's my daughter, and I had some punk kid tell me that. Like, I'm gonna disappear you. That's where, this being from New York, you're like, I'm not a mobster, but man, something rose up in me that would be, you're like, but I'm about to be.
Oh, for sure, man.
Yeah, and now that you went to Louisiana and near the swamp and stuff, you could even make it even more a possibility.
There's a lot of
you'll be a gator snack, bro, and no one will ever know what happened to you.
There's a lot of places to have someone swimming with the fishies. That's for dang sure.
That's right.
So how'd you really get into songwriting and stuff? So you were doing this ministry stuff. How'd you end up becoming Benji Cowart, the published songwriter with big hits in the worship world? How'd that come to be?
Man, I was always writing. Like I had always, even as a little kid, I kind of initially when I was a kid, I was like, I want to be an artist someday or want to do something. Because I grew up around the music business. My dad early on was involved with a company called the Benson Company, which was a label that eventually got bought out and now is part of Capitol.
Yeah.
So I was around even Christian music early on. And, as a kid, I always wanted to do it. So, it's funny how my two nevers were, God, I'll do anything you want, but I won't go to seminary and I won't be in ministry. And so it's, of course, God has a sense of humor, but I realized when I went and did those things, it was kind of cool because one, the job that I thought I'd be taking was never the job that I was so scared of. I always thought I'd be at a Baptist church conducting a choir. And if that's your thing, there's nothing wrong with that. But I was like, that's not my thing. But every church I was at, I kind of got to do the thing that I love to do. And I really feel like that what I thought was a detour was actually what prepared me to come to town and be a songwriter. Because I just spent 15 years. That's, when you're at churches, you should be in people's lives. You should know their stories. And you kind of just begin to go man, when people are, when you get a lady who's got cancer, you start kind of getting a real picture of, okay, what does she need to sing in church? Because we can't be throwing this, put a bow on everything and life's awesome and Jesus is going to fix it all. Because sometimes he doesn't. And so understanding even those kind of things of I don't know why God doesn't choose to fix this. Does it mean he's not good? No, but, so sometimes even writing songs where you let people say, I don't know. I trust that you're good, but I have no idea why this is going on right now. And so that's, and that's where it's when you start walking in people's stories, you start really realizing what are people really saying? And what do I really need to say in a song? Because I feel like when you write songs for the church, you're writing prayers for people. And you're helping them say things that they don't even know how to say. And so but you can't do that unless you really know people's stories and you're kind of walking in their story with them.
Yeah, no, that's some deep stuff right there. And with writing in Christian music, how for you, how does, changing the messages, faith is a whole nother level. It's a whole different thing from say writing the song that for back home in New York is on like Z100 or Q1043 or any of these big radio stations or any of that stuff. Like you're getting in touch with people's like innermost most top shelf beliefs, and you're also expressing yours. I mean that's got to be kind of difficult at times.
Yeah, it is. Well, we've all heard the saying, like when you go to a family reunion, don't talk religion and don't talk politics. You're exactly right, man. You're treading on some of the deepest, most inmost convictions that people have. So, like with Christian music, I do think you have to know the Bible. You have to know you really have to understand, because you've got to understand that, because it's almost like those are the parameters that you've got to have your conversations in, if that makes sense. So I definitely feel like when we're writing Christian music, I do feel like we have our own boxes, just like country music has its own boxes. Like there are certain things. I love that the boxes are expanding. But even in Casey Musgraves, like I still know it's a country song.
Yeah,
he just does it brilliantly. And with Christian music, like we have. I think, Tyler, I did this with you all, but it's like, because I can gripe and complain about how we have more limitations, but it's like, but man, if me and Picasso both had a piece of paper and a pencil, I'm pretty sure the outcome would be very different between the two of us of what we would come out with.
Right.
And so it's like, it's just what can you do within the boundaries of what you're given. So with, we definitely have, like, there's certain language that we use a lot in the church. Now that doesn't mean we don't try to push that, because there's sometimes where I'm like, have you ever heard a Christian song where you're kind of like, I feel like they just took a Christian Mad Lib and just inserted different church words. And even though they don't make sense, they're just, you hear this song, you're like, you just put a bunch of worship words in and made this a worship song, and nobody even knows what it means.
Don't rhyme grace with face.
Yeah. We've got to have fire and we've got to have water. So, and I think you've heard me say it, but I also go, but there is a reason we talk about water and we talk about bread and we talk about fire as it relates to God. Because then I'm like, but yeah, go 2 or 3 weeks without any of those three and see how that works out for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Now, in terms of like Christian music and stuff too, I mean, I feel like there's not just the contemporary Christian stuff. Like something I didn't really know about is how hard and heavy the riffs of like Christian rock bands, like say like Audio Adrenaline and bands like that. Skillet. Like I didn't really identify those as like Christian bands growing up and whatnot. But you talk about these boxes and whatnot. It's like there's these. Like, how many subgenres do you think there are within worship or within Christian music? Because there's got to be quite a few.
Yeah, it's funny because in the heyday there was like Christian ska and there was Christian metal and there was Christian and I feel like there's less of it now. But I think that's also just because the industry, because of it's like nobody was ready for when all the streaming and when Napster and all that came in. So the whole music industry, all of it shrunk. So because of that, I don't know if there are those genres, I don't hear as much about them. One of the things I am excited about, though, is what the possibilities of Spotify could do for Christian music. Because then you don't have, obviously, I would love for Spotify to pay writers better, but the freedom of not having as many gatekeepers as to what, Spotify, I do feel like is the Wild West for songs, because, man, a great song with great production is going to find its way out there in Spotify.
Yeah, and that's something that, the band that we work with now is kind of proving that point, because they're completely independent and they've got over 1 million monthly listeners right now, and they've never been with a label or anything like that, and they're kind of proving. And there's a lot of people that me and Matt kind of run with that do our writers rounds and stuff like that are proving like you don't have the gatekeepers now that you had in the days past. And like if you want to find something, you can go out and you can find what you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And you find your people. I mean, and the cool thing is there you can't really even define it. Like I consider what Johnny Swim does as Christian music.
Yeah.
And like even Need to Breathe, you might hear him pop up on the radio, but a majority of what's on the record is like this, its own thing. And I'm here in country, man, there's country bands out there right now, kind of in the outlaw country world, that those dudes, they'll never get a song on radio, and they are making millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And again, because whether you agree with them or not, man, they are authentic.
Yeah,
They're just telling their story, and some people don't like it, some people do, but you know that you're like, they're not selling out. That's for sure.
yeah, dude, real recognizes real. That's something that we like to say on here a lot, you
Yeah,
know? Like
absolutely.
real really does recognize real. So for you growing up, did you grow up listening to a lot of that worship style music, or did you grow up listening to a lot of stuff that was in the secular kind of world? Like who were some big influences for you as Benji the kid with the perm jamming some music in his whatever car, maybe an El Camino, maybe a Pinto, I don't know what you were driving.
I was driving a Ford Escort GT, baby.
Hey.
Oh, yeah.
With ground effects, by the way.
Of course.
So like it's funny because what I grew up, I had different phases because I definitely grew up on Christian music. But I also grew up like me and my brother, my older brother, we grew up on rap when rap first was a thing. Like going back to like Curtis Blow, Run DMC, what is it? Jam Master? No.
Grandmaster Flash.
Grandmaster Flash. Yeah. Like just that, like we were like, we're typically with whatever the white suburban kid obsession with rap was, we were that kid. Like we would literally put the office plastic out in the driveway and we were breakdancing. And so it's like I came up on that. Like there was this pop thing that I couldn't get enough of, and then back, one of the things I loved about early Christian music is it wasn't a production based genre. It was a lyric based genre. So you get like about 5 different genres show up on Christian radio. So you'd get like a Christian rap band that would then get played by like a borderline Southern gospel group behind, it's like, and I think that's what attracted me to Christian music early on. Cause that's, but I was also listening. I actually had to go back and catch up though later as a musician, just on great music period. So, going back and understanding what was so great about Toto, what was so great about Pete Townsend, what was so great about the Police. Because I didn't grow up on that, and I kind of was like, dang, I wish I'd been a little more into some of that, just because of it, widens your depth, or actually, you can't widen your depth. It deepens your depth.
Yeah, dude. And that's, again, something we talk about with Spotify and it really kind of being the Wild West. You can go back and listen to anything. If you want to go back and listen to Frank Sinatra, he's there. You want to go back and listen to early Stevie Nicks, she's there, Yeah. So you can really dive in, and it opens up. You don't just have to flip on an oldie station or be riding around the car with your grandma or grandpa to hear the old classics, You can really go out and explore.
Yeah, man. And it's like, and I've done that with certain artists, because I'm just, you'll hear people just swear by an artist. And so I'll just go live there for a while and see if I get it.
Yeah.
When I was living in Louisiana, I was driving back and forth at least twice a month, in a 7-hour drive. So I remember there was a Bruce Springsteen drive where I just took a deep dive, and that's what I listened to for a long time.
Dang.
And we're just going, okay, I get it now. I get it. Like because sometimes with him, I was always like, I don't know if I get it. But then, hearing what he does live, and then actually listening as a writer, listen to his lyrics and going like, oh my gosh, this dude he's a freak of nature.
Yeah, dude, for sure. And now you talk about live and stuff. Something I've experienced it a little bit. And I say a little bit because I've been to like a modern day, like contemporary Christian, like non-denominational service, which I thought was awesome. Because for me growing up, I grew up in a very like formatted, like basically the Catholic Church or the Episcopal Church is like the Catholic Church, but you can smoke and there's no confession booth. It's like that's how my buddy, somebody had described it to me recently. That's
amazing.
What's a live Christian show like, or something like Winter Jam, or some of these like big events within like the worship music scene and stuff?
The cool thing about one of the really cool things I think about, especially with the way that the worship vibe kind of crept in, is one of the cool things that does happen at a Christian music concert that I think is amazing is it's a fully interactive, like everybody sings along, because some of that just comes with the worship dynamic.
Yeah.
And there's, one of the things like, and this is one of my soapboxes. When I was the worship leader at a church and bands are hitting me up to come to my church, there was part of me that said, if you're not a better musician than the musicians I have on stage, why would I bring you in?
Yeah.
And that sounds harsh, but I'm kind of like, man, one thing I miss, we almost said, well, it's almost wrong to put on a show in music. And I'm kind of like, I don't know about that, because if I'm paying a ticket, like, so you're talking about like Winter Jam, or you go to a festival. When I go to a festival, man, I want to go see somebody that can play. So it's both a balance of the ministry they bring, and fortunately, there's a lot of great musicianship in Christian music. But that to me is something that like we got to be careful of, because once upon a time, man, like there were some Christian bands that they could play with anybody. PFR, Whiteheart, like just Whiteheart. I think at one point had Tommy Sims as their bass player. John, all these different, like one of the Huff brothers playing, like, and these guys now are all like session monsters in Nashville. So it's like I would love to see us, and to some degree we have some that with some bands, but I also, you asking about a live show, like there is something to be said along with the element that's already there of an awesome spiritual experience. That's one of the things I love about even what Big Daddy Weave does. And the cool thing about Big Daddy Weave is those jokers can play when they let it go.
Yeah, they can.
Like
I've seen them multiple times.
Oh, they kind of grew up. They grew up in the Dave Matthews era.
Yeah.
And so they got that nasty funk, like, and they can unleash the beast. They don't do it a lot, but every now and then you'll be like, what in the world is going on right now? So hearing bands like that where they've just got that in their back pocket, even if they don't always play it, like I like knowing that a band can tear it up on stage just doing an instrumental live performance.
Yeah, dude. No, the closest thing I would say I've gotten to that would be I've gotten to see, and it's remarkable being a 25-year-old that can say this. Thank God he came back a little. He came back and did that. I mean, it wasn't a reunion tour, but I got to see Garth Brooks twice, like before I moved down here to Tennessee. And that to me was, I mean, it was deafening with how, like, the whole crowd just singing back a song like The River or Unanswered Prayers. Yeah. Like you were talking about how the 90s guys kind of got it, and Vince Gill especially. I mean, there is that Southern gospel kind of influence in there. But you go to a Garth show, it's a spiritual experience.
I was about to say, like, I think anybody who has been to that knows there's a spirit. I don't have words for it, but there's a spiritual element going on. Like I remember hearing one of my buddies when I was in middle school. So this really dates how old I am, but like one of my buddies who's like he's kind of one of the tough kids in our middle school, but he went to a Michael Jackson concert and was talking about crying at the concert, and he couldn't figure out why. Like,
wow. Yeah.
But it was just such an overwhelming experience. And he's like, I was crying and I couldn't figure out why I was crying. We're like, well, that's because you're a sissy, but he really wasn't. And so it's funny how, like, there is something about, especially when everybody's singing and nobody cares about, like, and again, this isn't saying like it's a form of worship. And I'm not even saying it's like that's wrong, they're worshiping Garth. That's not what I'm saying. But there's something going on there that, like, when you get a bunch of people unified and aimed in the same direction and they're just pouring their hearts out, there's a spiritual thing going on, which is really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I that helps me understand why having a band in church like really kind of amps things up, and it really does. Because for me, I grew up with, like, there was the choir in the back of the church, there was the old guy on the organ, and it was very traditional. You go up, you get your little wafer that's the bread, and you dip it in the wine, like all that stuff. And but going to, like, I've been to Cross Point here, I've been to New Spring, been to some different style, like different churches or whatever, and there is something to be said for, like, the production and having the band there and whatnot. So for you, like, and also too, something, this just popped in my head, something I've noticed, and maybe it's being down in the Bible Belt now. Almost everybody that I meet, particularly in the country songwriters thing, we always ask, hey, how'd you get your start? And he's like, hey, I played in church. Or we ask, like, hey, how'd you get your start? I sang in church. Like, I think that's part of the reason that there's so many great musicians down here that come from these areas known as the Bible Belt. It's introduced so early on. Like, the Christian, like, church produces so many great musicians and singers.
Absolutely. That's one of my fears, because churches have gotten so, like, their production's gotten so slick and they're starting to play with tracks. And sometimes I go, like, man, like even Whitney Houston, but somebody's got to give those kids a place to start. And so I think sometimes we got to be careful. One of the things I love that goes on typically in Black church culture is, like, when you go to a predominantly African-American church, you'll see a bass player and then you'll see a kid sitting by him. You'll see a drummer and then there'll be a kid sitting by the drummer, and they're literally mentoring people on the stage as musicians. And I just go, like, as a church, we should always be doing that, because just what you said is exactly right. Like, so much of American music these kids were given their first shot to play anywhere in the church. And I think if the church ever stops doing that, then we have really screwed up.
And it's something that, obviously you preached whenever, you were kind of teaching us and stuff, but it's something that I was taught too whenever I left my church to come to Nashville was, I started off at my church as a bass player. And whenever I wanted to go from bass to acoustic, I had to find a youth or somebody that was younger than me to play bass. And then I could move to acoustic. Well, then I wanted to move from acoustic to electric. Well, I had to find somebody that was younger to play acoustic so I could move to electric. And then I went from electric to the soundboard and started kind of really crafting what now is my job. And once again, I had to find somebody that could play electric. And then when I left to come to college, I had to teach somebody how to run the soundboard and how to run the tech of the church, And it's that thing. That's something What's that?
Was that one of your leaders making sure you did that?
Yes, it was. It was our worship leader saying, like, hey, if you want to do something else, somebody has to step up and take your place, and they have to be able to do what you're doing.
That's a great leader right there, man.
Yeah. And, even now, like in jobs and stuff, like if I know I'm about to leave a job, like, no matter what it is, whether it's retail, whether it's, like I've been working in a golf course recently, like, if I'm leaving a bar, we're running sound. Like I've been running sound at bars now since I left Trevecca in 2018. And that's been kind of my hustle. But like, even whenever I'm leaving a bar and going to another one or leaving a bar and going on the road, like I try my hardest to say, hey, this is how I do things. This is kind of what's expected, even if the boss is saying it or not. Like it's still, to me, it's my job if I'm leaving to make sure that person is trained and make sure that they can take over my spot so that it's not a headache for the band to be switching from me to another person,
Yeah, dude, and that's the art of the art of leaving well is a lost art.
Yeah.
People just don't do that anymore, and that should be just a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Now, you were mentioning going to Belmont, and Tyler was telling me you were at Belmont the same time as a guy we know in the country format pretty well. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks that have come out of Belmont and stuff like that. The guy we're talking about, of course, Brad Paisley, but also just being at Belmont. I know today it's a staple. Like a lot of kids come to Belmont to want possibly do stuff within worship, but on the greater population, do a lot within music, whether it's music business or they're songwriters or they're majoring in guitar or whatever. So what was your Belmont experience like, and how important is it to have schools like that are really focusing on music?
It was, so when I was a sophomore, I think I remember going and seeing this guy play at a showcase, and it was one of those, and I'll say, I mean, it is Brad, but at the time I didn't know it was Brad. So Brad, by the time he was a sophomore, or I don't know if it was when I was a sophomore or junior, because we graduated the same year, he had already written the fishing song. And he'd already written like a couple, like one or two of his other hits. And so you're just sitting there going, and then he'd already playing at a level that wasn't far from what everybody heard on his first, like where he is now. Like he was already, and I just remember going like, I need to find another job.
Yeah.
If this is who I'm competing against. So it's like, and I think coming to Nashville, I think there's so many times I wish I was like, I wish every church musician could go live in Nashville for 6 months just to get humbled. Because man, musicians anywhere, like you live, I'm sure you had in New, where you were in New York, you just got really big fish in tiny ponds.
Yeah.
And man, they just think they are the stuff. And then you go like, go live in Nashville for 6 months. Go work at a restaurant and find out how many waiters and waitresses can play circles around you, and they're not even in the industry.
Yeah.
And so I just remember like just that whole experience of guys like Brad. I mean, the cool thing was watching like Brad's first touring band was all Belmont guys. That's not a fair bar to compare to, because now all that like Bernie Herms was his pianist. Bernie's done stuff with David Foster and done like big Christian music producer, but also just produces in other realms as well. So these guys were all like, it was just a freak show of a band that he went on the road with. Like, it's funny because his producer, Frank Rogers, was my RA.
Oh, no.
And for a long time,
That's
I was just
awesome.
like, Frank was just a cool RA. Like, I had no idea he was a producer.
Yeah.
and a high level producer. So just being around that, you just kind of go like, what all these people have all these secret powers? And I just thought they were just hanging around my campus, and they're like high level, master level musicians.
Yeah, dude, that's a lot, and that's something that I noticed too. I mean, coming from New York down to Nashville, obviously this is the music city. New York City's got a lot of cool stuff, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have the musical community and stuff. And that's one thing I've noticed too, is that the community thing, and that I refer to Belmont as like the B word. Like, it's something where if somebody has Belmont attached to them, it kind of just the networking and the community that comes with it. And I'm sure the same can be said in a way for Trevecca, maybe for Vanderbilt a little bit. I know it's not as much with music.
MTSU.
Or MTSU, I know, is another
Yeah.
big one, or Lipscomb to an extent. But for you, I mean, just the alumni base and the network base and stuff has to be so cool to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool being there, and it was cool coming through that. And looking back on it now, I do realize like that was even just graduating with a class, and I'm like, yeah, that was a pretty special class to graduate with. And just being they just taught they really did. I'm one of those things where it's like, hey, look, there's some value to going to college for music business, because it's really about you're really paying all that money for a network of people. But I also think, and there are plenty of people too that make it in this industry that don't have a college degree. So I'm one of those people where it's like, man, it's just who works the hardest. It's just who, like, there's, it's funny. I sent a text out a while back to 5 of the most successful music producers in Christian music. I'm just curious, how many of y'all have a college degree? And only one of them had a college degree, and it was in like Bible. It wasn't even in music.
Wow.
And so, and all these guys just have their YouTube degree. They've just spent the hours on YouTube, and then they just work harder than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so I've and we had the same thing at Belmont. The difference between who's successful and who was not was the guys that were sleeping in the studio floor between classes because they just wanted to be in the middle of it. They're the guys that are successful, and the guys who just wanted to have a college experience and thinking that music business degree would get them a job in the industry are probably doing something else now.
Yeah, absolutely. Titles and things like that only go so far. So you've been doing the music thing now for a long time. What advice would you give to somebody who's kind of fresh to Nashville or fresh in the Christian world or whatever? What kind of advice would you give to somebody as a writer?
Be patient. Keep. I think, man, all we can own is just keep getting better. Like, I can't control who listens to my songs. I can't control what happens to those songs. I can only control my craft. So like, it's something I'm constantly trying to just not be as another lazy musician. So it's like, if I can't, I just, with any kind of digital format, I think my learning curve, I just jumped on too late. So like, I'm probably not going to be Logic guy or Pro Tools guy, but I can be better with guitar, better with keys, because both of those just open different vocabularies musically. Even grow better with learning to write lyrics constantly, because the guys who do this well, there are just so many people in this town that just have a harder work ethic, and people who work hard will always outreach talented people who don't work hard.
Yeah.
Now talented people who work hard, they're going to do great too. But so I just say, don't own what you can own, which I think is own your craft. Keep getting better personally. Be persistent without being a stalker.
Yeah, that can be a fine line, by the way.
It is, and I think some of that is like you're sending something to somebody. That's one of the things we're doing with the class I'm teaching at Lipscomb now, and one of the things we're talking about is like, if you're going to use somebody's time, use it well. So if you send them your songs, send them like maybe 2, maybe 1, nothing more than that. If they give you advice, treat it like gold, and actually, like, if it's a song they say, hey, you need to rewrite this or work on this, then go do exactly what they said and then send it back when you get it done. Because a lot of times that's what also people are looking for, is just being teachable. Because you get people like, no, man, people just don't get my art. They don't get, and it's like, no, you just wrote a bad song. Like,
yeah, accept that you're
right,
gonna
just
get better.
grow.
Yeah, you got to grow.
And we all do it, man. Good Lord, if you saw like some of the most seasoned songwriters in town. If you saw everything they wrote, you realize that we all write crap songs in the midst of great songs. So it's just easier to go, yeah, this isn't a good song. Let's see if I can write something better, and not be precious about it. Like it's just a song. I mean, it's like, yes, I know you love it, and you shouldn't write a song that you're not excited about. But the reality is, like, the best of the best write a lot of really bad songs. And it's okay. It doesn't crush who you are as a person. Just be like, yeah, it's not a good song. Laugh it off. Go write another one.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly like what you're just talking about with like, and it's not a good song, like, don't take it personally. It was some of the best advice you ever gave me was like, don't take everything to heart. Like if somebody says, hey, I don't like that, no, they're not attacking you personally, but
right.
Yeah, like that was honestly like that was some of the best advice I think I ever got from you. And it's helped me out a ton, being here.
Yeah, because man, no is a way of life in this town.
Right.
No,
like it's just
that's that's a bumper sticker or a T-shirt, Benji. Right. You gotta get that trademarked, my man. No is a way of life in this town.
It is. It's like you just get, but and you kind of, but again, it's not personal, and you just kind of go, okay, well, you got to have a little bit of like is it Lloyd? Is it Lloyd and Dumb and Dumber? No, maybe, yeah, it's Lloyd of like, so you're telling me there's a chance. It's like, there's got to be that part of you that's like the eternal optimist of going, cool, not a good song, but I got another one. It's like,
yeah,
you just can't let that stuff beat you up.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, are your kids getting involved in music?
They are. I've got a son he is the one that's at Belmont. Like he's so good guitar wise, like he would never let me play in his band. Like he's a legit guitar player. Awesome. And then I've got a daughter who's a senior in high school, and she's a great voice. Kind of one of those where we can't really even take credit for it. But she has one of those where it's like just believable old soul type. And she's just got it, and I'm her parent, so I know I'm biased. But like when I hear her sing, I'm like, I believe that. Like, so it's kind of cool to watch that. And, then my son right now, I've got a freshman he was playing drums for a while, but now he's more into football. He's playing at Franklin High School, and he's my one kid that like, he just loves contact. Like he likes hitting and he likes being hit, and he just built and wired for it. And it's fun to watch because I was such a sissy when I was a kid. So when you have a kid that like just likes to lay it on somebody, you're like, yeah, that's nothing like me, but that's awesome.
That's my boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're my boy, Blue.
That's awesome.
I can take no credit for that, but that is my son.
That's awesome, man. You got anything else going on the rest of this year? What's kind of your outlook as far as stuff? You got anything like that you're pushing? Anything you want to plug while we got you on here?
Man, I don't. One thing I do, I've been taking on I do one-on-one mentoring with writers, and if I had anything to plug, I'd be like I'll take on students, and the difference of what I'm doing is just that I'm actually teaching, but also writing with you.
Okay,
that was one of the things I figured is if you're just to use an athletic comparison, like you can go through all the training you want, but until you play up. So it's like if you're playing basketball, until you just play ball with people that are better than you are, you're not going to get better. And so as a writer, man, I was always, when I was a student and going to all these songwriting boot camps, like it was cool hearing all these people teach about songwriting. But really where I learned the most is when I actually started sitting down with writers and writing with them and kind of going, oh, so that's one of the things I do. I do like it's an hourly fee type thing, but I'll do mentoring with other writers. And I think probably the difference of what I'm doing is that it's like, but I'm actually offering to write with you and help. So a lot of times what we'll do is somebody just brings their song into it, just a song start, and then I'll work with them and teach as we go. But I'm also helping them write the song, because a lot of the times what I feel like inexperienced writers just don't know where the gold is in an idea. And so it's like sometimes they'll build the whole house of the song on the wrong idea, but there'll be one line in the song where you're like, no, burn all that down. That line right there, that line is money. Build the whole house on that line.
There you go. Yeah.
And so people just don't have eyes to see it. So so for that, I mean, I don't even have a website. I just tell people just DM me on Instagram or message me on Facebook, and we just go from there.
Awesome, man. Awesome. That's great. One last thing, 2020 as a songwriter, weird time. Have you gotten used to Zoom writing yet?
Dude, I love Zoom writing because I'm an introvert. So
See, everybody that we've had on this year, it's been kind of like 50-50. Some people, they're saying they're like in person, they got to have the vibes. And there's other people that are like, hey, Music Row kind of messed up letting us write songs over a screen. We don't got to go to 16th Avenue anymore. We can
Right.
stay at home.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, man, as far as you know, I may not even be wearing pants right now, and I'm writing a song, dude.
Dude,
Exactly.
it's the classic news anchor stuff, you know? You don't know what's
Right,
going on
right.
underneath the desk.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Hey, amen to
But yeah,
that.
man, I love Zoom writing because it's like it's laid back, and there is a kind of a cool business sense because it's like, if I'm hanging out in a room with you, which I do love the hang, but sometimes it ends up being like an hour and a half of the hang. Whereas there's something about like when we're on Zoom, we're kind of like, okay, hanging's awkward, so let's just get to the right, because
Yeah.
hanging on Zoom is just awkward. Like there's
Yeah.
no great way to do it. So you just kind of get down to business and go.
And that's kind of what we've been hearing a lot of is like, those 3-hour writes are coming down to an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah, and you're getting stuff done.
Yeah. And you're getting more into your day if you want it,
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like I feel like for every industry, because I'll like over at Franklin Bridge, I was doing the driving range there quite a bit, and like I'm listening to dudes doing business deals as they're just hitting golf balls, and I'm like going, why not? Like
Yeah.
you ain't got to be in the office, and you got your little
No, I've
your
literally-
phone in.
I've literally been at the golf course and like been getting somebody set up on their tee time and everything. And like they're on the phone, like finishing a business deal while they're like
Yeah.
paying me to go golf.
Yeah, Benji, how's your golf game?
Well, I'm much better than I've been. Like I'm shooting like I'm happy right now if I'm in low 90s.
Hey, that's right where I'm at, bud. I feel that.
But it literally took me I kind of used one of the things I did with COVID is I'm like, you know what? 'Cause you have to just spend a certain amount of time on the range every day actually building a swing.
Yes.
There has to be a period in your life where at least for 3 to 6 months, you just actually get intentional about building your swing. So I finally figured out the mechanics of my swing to where it's not like rolling the dice, and it's not like witchcraft and sorcery every time I play where it's like, well, I might hit it well today. I might not. Like now I can kind of go, oh, I'm slicing. Let's tweak that and let's get it. And I'm smart. I can straighten it out now.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I still haven't straightened out my slice. I aim to the woods to the far left, and it just hooks all the way across.
You just play the slice, baby.
But then the one or two times that you do hit it straight, that ball is gone, man. See ya.
I know you play Cheekwood quite often, but I know on like hole, I think it's 5 where the houses are on the right.
Oh, dude.
Without fail, I like hit one as you're doom.
Smash.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh man, I just hit somebody's
Couldn't-
house
couldn't
for
pay-
like the
couldn't-
4th time in a row.
Couldn't pay me to live on a golf course, dude. I mean, I would love it. As an old guy in Florida, I might do it one day, live on a golf course and just say, screw it all, I'm going to go golf. But, like, the insurance you got to have for when guys like me get on the course and you're just
yeah.
doink, doink, doink.
We'll have to all get on a course one day together here soon.
Yeah, dude, I love to. Yeah, it cracks me up on Cheekwood because they've got that one hole. They've got the family that will sell your balls back to you.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
dude, yeah.
Dude.
Dollar
Like,
for
that's
3 or
awesome.
5. Yeah.
So I work Thursday mornings, and I always play Thursday afternoon with some guys that work there. And legit, last time we played, I put one 4 foot into that guy's yard, just far enough to where I couldn't reach over and scoop it up with my club. And I was just like, and it was like obviously working on a golf course, I get all my stuff for free. I've gotten all my clubs for free. I've got all my
he's
balls
got
for
the
free.
setup, dude. I'll tell you what.
But it was like a Titleist Pro V1, so it was like a really nice ball, and I was like, I want that back.
How old do you have to be to work there? Because my son, I need to
Dude,
get
we
him
got
working
16. We got 16-year-olds working there all the time.
there. 15?
16.
16, okay. That'll be the magic year where I'm like, you're working at Cheekwood, dude. I don't care if you want to or not.
Yeah, and he gets free golf then.
And he gets free golf, and there you go. Father-son
I know.
bonding, golf
Well,
course.
he's learning. Like he's one of those where I'm like, man, if you'll just learn your swing early and not so you don't spend the rest of your life unlearning, you'll actually enjoy this
Well,
game.
see, I didn't even start playing until August. Like, never hit a golf ball on a golf course till August. So it's something that's bit me pretty well,
The bug bites hard in COVID, I'll
Oh
tell
yeah,
you what.
boy, it does bite hard.
Absolutely.
especially when it's free.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Well, Benji, man, thank you for hanging out. Where can people go to find you?
They can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Benji Cowart. Pretty low key. Not much, man. Don't have a website.
I
But
got you, man. Well, hey, it would be a pleasure to one, get on the golf course, but two, we do those writers rounds over at Live Oak, and we have never dove into the Christian worship round. It'd be really cool to have you come and play one of those over at
yeah, dude, I would
over
love
at
to.
the
It was funny. I
Mumbrian.
played. I got a random, and it's not because I earned it, but a friend of mine just happened to be the guy coordinating Bluebird. So I
Okay.
got to play at Bluebird one night.
Damn.
But I like it was so funny because I was, he's the guy that his name's Brian White, and he's had some big country songs. So he's just he's hysterically funny. Really knows how to do a writer's round. And I finally was just like, dude, I said, with my songs and everything I'm saying, like, I feel like I'm the guy that somebody tells a joke and I'm the guy that's talking about starving kids in Africa. So it's like for writers round with a bunch of country writers, I'm like, how do I do this without being that guy, without just being like the heavy bomb on everything?
Oh man, it'd be an honor to have you on there, man. Well, thank you so much to Mr. Benji Cowart for hanging, Tyler. That was awesome, bro.
Yeah, man. Benji's a great guy. Like, it was cool to be under him for a couple of years and just like to soak in all the knowledge that the man has. Like, I've told him before, like, I feel like he really saved me probably a decade of really trying to figure out this talent and figure out writing and the music scene just in the 2 years that he was able to teach us.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Well, guys, this has been another edition of the In the Round podcast. Remember, support our friends at Trailside CBD Emporium. They've got all your CBD and hemp needs. Y'all go check them out. 20% off with the promo code ITR. They've got that rewards program going as well. So you become a customer, they will reward you.
And also, don't forget to hit up our boy Whale Media if you need any video or photo shoot.
Yeah, Wales is the guy. Photos, videos, you're getting hitched. Hell, even baby pictures, whatever. Wales has
Photo
got
shoots
you.
just because.
Photo shoots just because. Y'all go hit up our boys at Whaletail Media Company. Thank you guys for listening. This has been another edition of the In the Round podcast.